All right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm delighted to be back here tonight to talk to us on the part we had issues with last night. I was able to fix it last night. There was just a minor bug in the code. I'll show you what the bug was, and I'll show you what I did to fix it. And from there, we continue to advance the course of our game. Now, inshallah, we will complete the game tonight so that all of you will have something to sleep over. And tomorrow will just be more of let's catch up. Let's find out how you all feel. Let's listen to you to get your own game ideas, and you can tell us what you plan to do in the next few weeks before we meet again by Allah's grace. Now, yesterday night, we were trying to check if there is a collision detection here. Of course, I walked us through the logic of collision detection on the chart here, and I know quite well that this logic looked very good, but not completely exhaustive, and I'll tell you why. When you look at what we said, we only covered for two conditions. When the bottom of the fireball, which is this object here, is greater than or equal to the top of arc, or situation where the right of the fireball, which is this side, is greater than the left, the arc object, which is this side. That's just representing two scenarios. There are other contexts that we did not look at yesterday. So let me quickly illustrate that, and I'll show you what I did in the code. I'm reaching for my marker. Let's say this is one object. This object, I don't know what we'll call it. You can call it object A. Object A can overlap with object B in several forms. One of it could be like this. B could be like this. The overlap could be in this format. The overlap could be in this format. The overlap could be in this format. And it could be a complete overlap. All these ones are partial, so you can have a complete overlap where B sits on top of A directly. But before you get to B sitting directly on top of A, the options 1, 2, 3, and 4 will have taken place before you get to B sitting directly over A. So in Python environment, in Pygame environment, basically, there is a method used to check if there is any form of overlap so that you won't be writing long if statements. Yeah, I was aware of that method, but I wanted you to see what the logic looks like so that you can think on your own. When you look at the statement, it looks short and it won't make too much sense to you. You just believe what the authors have written. But it is good for us to know the logic behind every code that we write so that when people ask us about it, we will be in the position to explain it to them. So this was what I did yesterday. I came into this segment of my detect collision function, and I put a line there to check if there is a collision detected, if there is none. But above all, before detecting this, I said it should print enemy location for me. Okay, it should print enemy location for me. I think to make things easier, I will knock this first name off and then use one person's name here. Let me pick Hassan. Okay. So I pick a sun as my user so that it's going to run faster. So when this happens, what you see is that while the program is running in the background, you will see whether there is collision detection or not. And not just that, you will see the position of the enemy. And I equally said print orc location. Okay. But this wasn't everything that I wrote. I said orc location and show it to me. And then enemy location, show it to me. Okay, so I did this. And in the process of doing this, I was able to see that our orc was awkwardly located in terms of what the code was storing. Let me run this just for a moment, and you see exactly what I mean. Yeah, so you can see it says no collision, no collision, no collision, and we can't see the position of the two objects. Let me cancel the code and say, if there is no collision, show me the position of both objects. I want to see where both of them are. I know one is changing, and that's the enemy location. So if I run this again, you will see the positions are changing. And if you stop it right there for review and you move up, you can see that consistently enemy was coming from the x-axis where it is 0 and its y keeps changing from 0 to 20, 230, 0 to 231, 0 to 232. It's increasing by 1 because the speed has been set to 1 and orc 2 was static. So I found out yesterday that the x value of orc and the y values were 0, 0. And that was why it kept telling us collision detected right from the beginning. So I fixed that and my program ran after I made slight adjustments to the positioning. So that's point number one. Point number two, which you need to take note of, is when you are trying to detect whether there is a collision. Miriam spoke about the hit boxes. This is what she meant by that. Let's go back to our board. Yeah, she meant this. Hold on. These boxes that we have here, they are, let's say your orc is sitting this way. This is orc. You will not wait till something touches orc directly, touches his head or his leg or his hand. You won't wait till that moment before you figure out that there is a contact. Because if I'm sending a ball towards him, how will you know if there is an overlap, if there is a contact between both of them? So when Miriam introduced that expression, I felt so delighted about it because around orc, for instance, there is this imaginary box because the picture has those four corners. Okay, even though we are not seeing them because they blended with the environment. So you can see that the ball, this one, doesn't necessarily need to touch the body of orc because before you have possibly a collision between that ball and the hitbox of orc. So this is the box for orc, and this is the one for our fireball. So both of them can overlap even before the physical objects overlap. So don't see the overlap as the ball will be like this. By the time you detect that, there is already a massive overlap between the two hit boxes. So you need to be very careful. What you are looking for is a scenario where from here to here, there is already a the slightest of contact means collision is detected. And then you want to do something. In this case, what I plan to do is to make an explosion sound. Okay, let there be an explosion sound. And then our fireball should go to this top left corner of the screen. Our fireball should go back there. Orc should stop where it is. The status of our game should be game over. And then scoring should stop. And this fireball should stop dropping down once it is game over. Those are the minor but important changes that we need to make to our code tonight. So I'll walk us through the steps involved in achieving this. And then we have time to do our debrief. So let me go back to my code quickly and then show you what we have here. So if we run this code now, I've already removed the scenario where we're tracking the positioning. So if there is a collision detected, you just see something in the debug window showing you collision detected or collision not detected. And then you have this variable called game current status being set to game over. The initial value of that variable was in progress, game in progress. I just put in progress, no need to say game in progress. So if there is a collision, the game should end and the value of that variable should change to game over. And that is what you see on the top right corner under your score. And then the score should stop increasing. So let's test this detect collision. Maybe I need to increase the speed of my fireball a little bit to like 3. And then let's hope that we can get collision early. Okay, so you can see no collision. That's understandable. There has to be a collision now. So you can see collision detected, collision detected, collision detected. But while collision is detected, it's still giving points to Hexan. Collision detected in this case, it should not give you points again after it has written game over. Okay, so we need to fix that mess. So what do we do? The noise is disturbing me at the moment, so I need to first go to the game sound and then block it temporarily. I'll come back here later to fix it. So change number 1 will be, how do we, so you can see now that your collision detection function or detect collision is working. And I called it somewhere here. It could be there. I can move it somewhere else. I can remove it from there. And then put it where we put all other, variables, or all other functions that we've been using. So I can put it here. It will still work. There's no problem with that. So that function is clean. Now, our scores are working, or the score system is working, the name system is working. What do we need to do next? We need to find a scenario where when there's collision, okay, when there is collision and the value of game current status is now game over. When it is now game over, we do not want the ball to keep dropping down anymore. Once the game is over, there is no need for the ball to keep dropping down. And there is also no need for score to be increasing. So we need something like a function. I will call it define reset fireball. This function is what will take our fireball to the top left corner, and it should be reset, not rest. Reset fireball. So this function, its duty in my head is it will stop the scoring system, and it will also stop, excuse me, it will also stop in a way the fireball from dropping further down on the screen. So what should this function look like? It's a very simple function. We need to first know where is the enemy. So I need global enemy location. Once I know enemy location, all I need to do is to set it to 0, 0. Yeah, and that's it. That's the duty of reset fireball. It will take that object back to the top of the screen where it will hang there. But the question is, how do we call this function? How do we use reset fireball? It's a very simple thing. First, I need to go into my move enemy vertically, because you cannot just say reset fireball. How do you know when to reset fireball? When there is a collision. So we need to go into our detect collision function, which is here. Yeah. And do a slight check. Collision should only be detected while the game is still running. That's what I think. So we'll say while the game is still running, detect collision. Otherwise, indicate reset. Otherwise, reset the fireball object. So how do we go about doing this? We all know about the if statement. So I'll say if game current status, we know it, is in progress. In progress, and I remember putting ... to show that the game is still in progress. If the game is in progress, what should it do? Let's say pass. And if it is not in progress anymore, what should it do? If it is not in progress anymore, it should reset fireball. That's what we want. So the function here will be reset fireball, which is take fireball back to the top left corner. That's the task of this. But if it is still in progress, that is when all of these important things that we wrote before will become necessary. So I'll replace pass with the logic of while the object is still, while the game is still on. It should keep checking. But once the game is over, it shouldn't check anything again. So that one is important. Now, one other thing that I need is, we can test this and see how it works, but hold on a second. We said that when there is a collision, we want a sound to be played. So I looked around the web last night, and I was able to get some funny sound, like explosion.wav. Yeah, I got this. I got something else, but we'll use that explosion.wav, and it can be any other, sound that you can get. So I need a function which is going to be defined as play collision sound, just to indicate that the game is over. So let's pass for now. We'll come back and define what should be there. That sound should be defined here, but we will use it when we get into this place. Yeah. This is where we need play collision sound. After collision is detected, that sound should be played. Everybody will hear it. Boom. and then the game should technically end. Now, what is going to be the content of play collision sound? We know this is going to be collision sound is equal to Pygame dot mixer, okay, dot sound, capital S, and then I'll go to, I think I have an explosion dot WAV. Yeah, this is it. And then we'll say collision sound. Oh, see my spelling. Collision. Yes, this is the correct one. And then I'll correct it here. And it will just be dot play. Okay. So that's it. So this will play that sound for us when there is detected collision between the fireball and the orc object. So let's check this and see the way it pans out. So I run the code. It says no collision. You can see it on the lower left corner. So we wait for it a bit. Let it come out on top of orc now, please. Okay. The next.
You can move Hulk to that side.
Okay, you want me to move orc to that side, see players. Aha, so you can see it did boom, and then the game stopped. What happened? Why would the game stop when there is a detected collision? I'm trying to look through this. It said there is an error on my line. The error first came on line 173, which is a long depth down there, 173. Move enemy vertically. Okay, so I need to go back to that function and check what is happening there. So where is move enemy vertically? I am almost there. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so it says we need to adjust something in this function, or this function move enemy vertically. I know from experience that what is complaining about is line 65, which is this. When there is a collision between orc and that fireball, we do not see the top of the enemy again because I have reset the location. So what I did for the detect collision down here, this one, I will need the same logic for the movement. The movement is only necessary while the game is still on. If the game is no longer on, you do not need to move around. So I'll come in here and say, make a check. I'll say pass for now. I'll put a comment there and say, move fireball only when the game is in progress. Yeah, that's the most sensible thing. Otherwise, excuse me, enemy or fireball should not be moving when the game is not in progress. So while the game is in progress, move fireball. Otherwise, it should do something. We said return fireball to the top left corner. Yeah. And the way to do that is to call the reset fireball function that we have defined. So this is the modification that we need to make to this function, move enemy vertically. However, this is not the complete part. Everything we wrote previously, all of these enemy location, blah, 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 we need to now bring them, copy this, and replace my pass with it, because that's the logic for moving the enemy vertically. So if I adjust this and I run the code again, I know there won't be any collision here. Okay, so let's move Orc around. Okay, next time, let's move it towards that. Yeah, so you saw it said bam, and then it changed the status of the game to game over. Ihsan only scored 2 points, and then the fireball has gone to the top left corner because the game is over and it's not moving around again. Orc may move around, we really don't care, but that fireball is not going to move until you start the game again. That's one thing that you need to get. It's very, very important. What other adjustment can we make to this game? We can increase the speed to say, as your points or your point tally increases, the speed of the fireball should automatically increase. So how do we go about doing that? I can go into this game and say, I'm coming back to line 67 because that is where we are increasing the, the movement of the enemy. The speed is currently 3. I can even set it to 1. And I'll put in one element here. I'll call it speed adjustment. Okay, I think that's the easiest English because what came to my mind should have been speed delta, but many people will get confused here. So let's say speed adjustment. Initially, it is 0. Okay, this speed adjustment is 0. But when the game starts running, I'll need to adjust the speed and say increase speed adjustment value. And that means that I'll do a slight modification of that. Speed adjustment should be the same thing as, let's see what was there. It had speed adjustment, and I can just add 0.01 to it. Okay. And when I get to where it's complaining that they can't recognize this variable, it's so easy from what we said yesterday. Make a copy of it and then add it to this long list of variables here. All right. And then you are fine with it. So the next thing I need to do after adjusting that is here, I need to find a way of adding that figure, this speed adjustment value. I need to add it to, it's going to be plus. Yeah, it will be plus the initial velocity plus the top of the program. So if we do this very well and we are lucky with it, you will realize that the top of the player will move faster as the game progresses. Let's check. I set it to 1. Okay, see, this is at the beginning. When it goes out and it's coming out the next time, you can see the speed is faster. So you can see the speed changed when it was coming out the second time. I can actually play this game again and see how fast it will be the third time. So we escape, no collision, we score 2 points. Okay, so you can see it's faster the second time we score. It's faster the third time. You can see before I could even move Orc, it already banged something on its head and then it says game over after 6 points. That is one update that I think we should also make to our code so that we'll see how we can increase. If you want it to be much faster, you can increase this value, but I think systematic increment in speed is very key. So don't just rush the speed. And if you want it to be the same speed all through, you don't need this line 69 at all. You do not need line 60 at all. Just go up to line 55 and increase your vertical speed there, or the vertical velocity, and it will be the same speed all through the game. So that's one thing that I feel we should change in the code. And I guess it makes our code a lot better. So we have detected collision. We have been able to play sound upon collision using this approach here. Just 1 minute. Play collision sound. We have been able to control the position of the fireball. Once there is collision, it takes the fireball back to the top of the screen. And of course, Orc can still move around, but the game changes because once collision is detected, the game current status will change to game over from in progress that it was at the beginning. And then the rest is just going to be more of how creative you are as a person in running this. Now, when I go back to this code, I can start looking at where enhancements could come from. The game is running the way we want, so I can go back up and say, I don't want to preset the username as a SAN. I should be able to grant my users the opportunity of typing in their name on the console, and that is what the program will pick and start using. So let's review the code from the beginning for those who may still have doubts, so they will see what our game looks like. We started by importing the Pygame library and then the random intelligence also from Python. Of course, we installed the Pygame library. Then we prompted users to indicate their name, player first name. If I can just say, okay, enter your name is fair enough. Okay. Then we initiate or initialize the game engine. We set the dimensions of our screen. It's going to start from 0. The width is 1200 pixels. Let me put it here in pixels. Then we managed to create the screen. Instead of putting exact figures in line 16, we put in the variables, and then the figures that you have put in the variables will be substituted automatically. We set the titles for the screen as the Orc game. We didn't change the icon. We could have changed the icon easily, but we learned that in one of our previous lectures. Then we set the background of the game screen to forestbg.png, which is this background that you see. Once you move your mouse over that file name, it will show you what the background is like. Then we went ahead to put the game sound, which will be playing in the background as the game moves on. Then we produced Orc, our first object that we are putting on the background. You can see the dimension of Orc is 360 on the horizontal side and 507 pixel on the vertical side. So this is the object we are placing on this background, and the color combination looks pretty amazing. Then we use these two lines, 32 and 33, to get the value of the height and width of Orc automatically. Then we set Orc to be at this starting point, 550 on the x-axis, 350 on the y-axis, and that's why it was standing on the horizontal axis. In fact, his legs kind of went a little bit down into the screen. And of course, we can track the position of Orc on the basis of those two values. So that's why it stays at the base. Then we said we want Orc to have a velocity of 15. If you think Orc is moving too slowly because of emergencies, you can increase the speed to 25. So when you press any of the navigation keys, the top arrow, down arrow, right and left arrows on your keyboard, orc will move 25 pixels in all those 4 directions. Then we created an enemy because we don't want orc to just stay in the jungle alone. Something has to chase it. So it's a game where this enemy called Fireball 2 was created as enemy. And then we got the location of that enemy by calling its own hitbox. This is the way to get that imaginary rectangle around any picture. Okay, just like we demonstrated. Yeah, this is orc, this is fireball. So to get this rectangle, you need to call get_rect method of your image. And we set the origin of that enemy location to the top left corner. That's why you see 0, 0 here. Then we said, okay, we want enemy to come from the top to the bottom. We set the velocity of it, the vertical velocity, to 1. In our previous demo, we were thinking of horizontal velocity, but since it's not moving in that direction, we can as well remove that variable. It's not needed anymore. Then we set the game status to show in progress, ... You can type whatever you want there. I really don't care. And then here I said game speed will increase by this factor as time goes by. Yeah. So initially it's 0, but it will be increasing by 1. So these are the basic things we define here. Now, to move our enemy vertically, we came in and defined a function here, and we were checking if the game is still on. If the game is still on, adjust speed by 0.01, and then move the enemy object downward. This is the downward movement by adding that speed adjustment to the initial vertical velocity that you've set. So you see that this initial velocity is 1 and it will remain 1. But because the adjustment, the speed adjustment will keep increasing by 0.01 every time a new ball appears. In fact, every time this method is called, which is going to be tom, 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 that the tick of your clock, the speed will keep increasing and the level of difficulty of the game increases automatically. So speed keeps increasing and the object drops faster. Then we checked if the object has disappeared from the screen. This is the condition for it. When it disappears from the screen, we want to say whether it dropped on its own or orc manages to escape being hit by the fireball. Then your score as a player should be determined by addition of 2 points to you. Then when next orc is reappearing at the top of the screen, we want him to appear at a random position. So let me put the comment here and say, bring out, it's not orc, it's the fireball. Bring out fireball at the top from a random horizontal position. Yeah. So that's what this line is doing. This brings it out at a random position, and this is what brings it up at the top of the screen. Of course, we do not need define enemy horizontal movement again because we are not using horizontal movement and we are not using diagonal movement. So I'll delete these 2 functions. They are not needed. Now, to display our scores on the screen, I had to create a variable called player score. At the initial stage, your score is 0. Then I produced a font object that is of size 25. You can reduce it, you can increase it. Let me say 20. And you can give a font name in case you have one. But I just say, okay, I don't have any. Let the game engine choose a default font. Then I created a scoreboard, which I'm bringing up here by saying, I want to always pass the first name of the game player and the score of the player to this function. And of course, this line is determining where my scoreboard is going to be. So maybe I should put this comment here and say, determine, not, that's too long. Set the location of the scoreboard. All right. I set the location of the scoreboard, and then this second part here handles the display on the scoreboard. Okay. I think scoreboard can be a single word, technically. Yes. So this is what determines the text that you see on the scoreboard. And then the last line there is display the scoreboard. Displays the scoreboard on the screen. Yeah. So this function does these three things for us, and we can call it when we need to. Now, we need to know the status of the game, because when you start the game, it will read in progress. But when the game is over, it should not read in progress. The fireball should not keep dropping. We need to change the status of the game to something else. So, and that means we are updating the scoreboard in a way. So the comments that you have here will also suffice. So I can copy this and put this here. And then I can say undo the display on the scoreboard. That's correct. And then I can copy this and say display the message, display the scoreboard itself. So this is where we see game over. Okay. And the game status will be game over. So what is the game over here? It should be game status, which is the variable that you pass to this function. Now, this other one, we use it to play sound when there is collision. So just come in here and say load and play collision sound when collision is detected. If there is no collision detection, that sound is not played. Okay, so how do you determine if there is collision? That's what you do here. Handles collision detection. So what I am doing here is I am putting comments in my code so that people will know what each segment of the code does. Even you today, you may remember why you have written some lines, and next week when you come back, you become confused. But when you read your comments anytime, you will understand what that segment of the code does. So sometimes people write longer statements like than I have written. I just kept it simple because we're having a live recording and we don't want it to be too long. So this is the part of the code that handles collision detection. So how is the collision detected? It can only be when the program is still on, while the game is in progress. So if the program or the game is in progress, then we check if there is any overlap. This is the most vital statement here. We are checking, is there an overlap between enemy location and orc location? You could have written it as orc location dot direct enemy location. Both of them will still work. Okay, so take note of this. This is the statement, line 27. That is the line that detects any form of overlap between the two objects, like we were trying to do here, do here, do here. All of the gymnastics we did on these screens, all these ones. It is that line that aptly summarizes it in technical way. So you want to say object 1 overlaps object 2. This is the easiest way to do it. There are other methods for doing it, but I need you to just stick to this. When you grow more experienced, we will explore other methods. So when there is collision, play that collision sound, which is at the top here. Then in this lower chamber of your screen, we are saying print collision detected. It's not necessary. This is just for me to see what is going on behind the scene. That part, I can remove it. It's really not adding any value to the live program. But you can keep it there just for you to see if there is collision or not. Then, of course, we are changing the status of the game to game over. And we should display that status. And once the game is over, you should stop moving the object. That's why we did a reset. You should stop moving that object, and we should stop counting the score. In fact, you can't count the score again because the object has stopped moving. So this is the logic for resetting the object. We also need to move there and say this undo the return of fireball to the top left corner of the screen. Okay. So this comment is necessary. And then we added clock just to make our game movements, more swift and, smooth. Now, of course, why we need is game running. We want to check if our game is running, and that's how we started our game loop initially. So we checked events to see if anyone has clicked on this X sign on the top right corner. This is the part where that is being checked. If yes, then the game should be set to false in terms of whether it's running or not. And then it will jump to the end and say game over. Okay. In fact, some people will take this pygame.quit. They will type it directly under this line 156. It works. It depends on style, but I choose to write it this way. Now, we wanted to track the movement, to control movement of orc by using 4 keys on the board, the arrow keys going up, down, right, and left. And that's why we were tracking the location of orc and the key that we were pressing. If you don't want to use the arrow keys to move your object, you can decide on which keys you like, and you will be able to bring them in here. I can give you an example. So if you say Pygame, okay, dot K, you can see you have up key, down key, left, right. You have S, B. You can use the figures. You can use the letters. These are backspace. This is letter C. You can use letter D. You can use letter E. Any of the alphabet could be used. It depends on you. But I just feel it's a lot easier to use those arrow keys because they are pretty much together and your hands can maneuver them easily. So we checked if you have pressed the left key and the position of orc is such that it is still within the screen view, as in it is the X component of it is greater than 0, then move orc to the left if there is space on the left-hand side. If there is no space, then it stays where it is when it gets to the edge of the screen. So we programmed left, right, up, down movement. Of course, this was where we added our background image, that beautiful forest image, which is somewhere on this left-hand side. Then this was where we added orc to the screen. This was where we added the fireball to the screen. This is where we added enemy to move. And this is where we detect collision, we display scores, we show status, and we always update the game because the game is constantly being played and it will keep updating the status of the screen and the experience becomes very smooth for us. And that is the summary of the game we have built together. I can give you the source code. I hope I can do this. Imisi Oluwa. She's the one with her video on. Okay. So this is your orc, Imisi. And you can see that the point for the scoreboard has changed. Hey, I made a mistake in your name. Pardon me for that. But at least you scored 2 points now. And then the speed is going to increase. Okay, so let's play a little bit. Free ball. 6 points. You can see the speed has increased. Game over. That is our game for you. The floor is open for Q&A. Thanks a lot for being a part of this journey. I've thoroughly enjoyed being with you. So over to you, our coordinator. Q&A. Q&A now. Aha, I'm seeing people sending me messages. Let's see. Okay, I've created a background and would like to show you. Yeah, why not? Show me. Yeah, I'll post the video immediately after class. Yeah, for those who are in need of it. So let's see the screen of those who have something to show me. We will discuss all the other things that can come from this game. I'll give you some other ideas beyond what you have done so far. This is a complete game that people can play and new ideas will keep coming to you. So part of the ideas that I may give you will be why the ball or the fireball is dropping from the top to the lower side of the screen. You can make it such that it's not just one fireball that will be dropping. There will be more fireballs dropping. And you need to increase the speed of arc once you get to that point, just to make the game more exciting. One fireball at a time, arc is pretty much comfortable. But if you are dropping like 2 or 3, then arc has a lot of work to do. And that means you need to either reduce the size of arc so that it doesn't run into fireballs too easily because of his big size. Because fireball is big, arc is big, the likelihood of them colliding is very high when arc is busy running up and down and you are dropping multiple fireballs. That's one option if the fireballs are dropping from the top. A second option could be you use one fireball. Yeah, I will come to your screen, please. You use one fireball, and instead of it just coming from the top and disappearing and then reappearing from the top, you can make it bounce off the walls. Yeah, it drops, it bounces from the lower screen, it goes up, it bounces from the edge, and then arc needs to run around the screen. Instead of using just lateral movement, as in sideways movement to the left and to the right, it will also need to move up or down, depending on where the ball is coming from. So the ball, let me go back to my screen a little bit. Just hold on, please. Let me get the screen back just a minute. All right, thanks. So I go to screen 2. So an enhanced version of this project will look like this. Let's maximize this. My marker comes out. So you have the screen like this. So I said option 1, fireballs are dropping, fireballs are dropping, fireballs are dropping. You can have this option 1, 2, 3. And then orc is busy moving this way. Okay, depending on where the fireball is. That's one scenario. The second scenario is a scenario where orc is on the screen here. One fireball drops, and it drops like this. Let's say this is the fireball. And immediately it gets to this wall, it bounces. But because it's coming from the vertical position, it can only bounce back up here. So you can do it like it drops like this. When it drops like this, where we had diagonal movement in one of our videos, you know the moment it bounces this way, orc has to run this way to escape. The next bounce of the fireball will be in this direction. And orc knows that it cannot stay here, because staying there means the next time that ball bounces, it's coming this way. And when it bounces off this wall, it's certainly coming this way. And then it goes like this. It goes like this, like this. And it becomes very dynamic that the ball is controlling its own movement. So orc at some point will need to run up, or it needs to run down, or it runs on this axis. It already has the ability to move in those 4 directions. So you can think through this and say, okay, one fireball, and instead of dropping diagonally, vertically, you need it to drop diagonally, and you see all of these, possibilities. It's going to be a tougher game to code, but then it's doable. When I say tougher, for you, it will be, but if you put in a little bit extra effort, you will be able to sort this out and you'll be fine. Okay, so that's the idea that I think I need to give you on this. The rest will just be open your own mind, be creative, and let's see what you can come up with. So I give the screen back to Peace. Let me see what she has to show me. Okay, so let's have your screen. Yeah, it's coming up. All right, so I can see your screen. So let's go to the top part of the screen to check your code from the beginning. Yeah, go to the top part. Okay, so there is already a problem. So import Pygame correct, line 4 correct, your color definition correct, your screen height and width correct, setting the screen on line 18 correct, your caption, our first Python game, correct. Okay, now you are putting an icon correct. I love this. Then you set up a wallpaper. Hold it there. Line 31. Wallpaper is correct, but it's saying, okay, it's saying kind of that the name is saying.
Like, I made a mistake when I was saving it.
You can correct it.
I saved it.
Like,
I saved it as wallpaper.
So what you do is right click on that picture on the left hand side. Right click on it. Just right click. You will see refactor. Don't delete. Refactor, rename. So a dialog box will come out on your screen now. Just call it WP1. So we know that's wallpaper 1. Okay, we wait for it. So call it WP1. Yeah, refactor. So in line 31, once this one goes off, you change line. Yeah, that picture now should not be WP1. Correct. So that line is okay. So we are getting into our game loop. While is game running, we search for event. Okay. We bleed the background. Yes. And then this should work for you. Yeah. This should work. You've not dropped any other object there. So this should work. Background. So you can see now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can bring in that your lovely character that you showed me yesterday. So this is fun. Any other concern or question from anyone? Yeah, thanks a lot. Nice effort. So use that character. Just rename them. Let them have shorter names so that it's easier for you to use.
Okay, sir.
All right, thanks. Now, so I'll wait for our coordinator to join us. Miriam, please help us tell Daddy. We need to discuss our physical party because we need to have a party. And then we will discuss what you should be doing after this tutorial. And maybe tomorrow, if you have any challenge, you can think through tonight. And then tomorrow when we meet, if we have a meeting tomorrow, we will be in the position to address all those issues. But essentially, you have seen how to design a simple game from the beginning to an end. But while that's going on, while we wait for the second uncle, I want to, not all of us are in Lagos. Okay, we will discuss this, don't worry. I want to see if I can,
Okay, sir.
yeah, I want to see if I can copy a book. Just hold on a second. Desktop. Make a copy of this. How did I copy again? Copy. Yeah. Then I'll go to chat. I'll go to everyone and I'll say paste. I've dumped a book in the chat room. It's uploading. Give it some seconds. Once it comes on, you will be able to see the book there. You can download it onto your desktop and use it as your guide. Read it at your convenience. It will give you the steps that you need to follow when designing games using Pygame. It's a very nice book. I just downloaded it yesterday and I've scanned through. I tend to like the way the material is set out in that book. And the rest is going to be more of your imagination. Go through the videos online. You will find the materials useful. There is another channel that I produced. So if another playlist rather that I produced where you can learn Python fundamentals in 20 minutes or 15 minutes. I just broke them down into tiny, tiny bits. Let me see if I can get the link again. Hold it. Python. It should be here. Content. Let's see. Playlists. Yes, I think I have it. So there is a playlist here for, I call it Python for, I don't know how they will describe this. Okay, let me just copy the link. Because they are not sequentially arranged, but in my own naming, you see prologue, Python lesson 1, lesson 2, up to currently 25. So I am putting the link in the chat box for you to look at. So that's the link. Then retry. I'm retrying the document that I sent earlier for you to be able to download. Let's hope that it goes through. If it doesn't, I'll give you the link where I got it, and you may have to just, or you can search Google and look for any Pygame book. I'm sure there are many of them out there that you can read and understand. Okay. So how many of us are in Lagos, if I may ask? It's telling me book cannot be sent. I am resending. How many of us are in Lagos? Okay, I can see Peace and Co. Who else? Okay, Miriam. Who else? Okay, maybe we should ask how many of us are not Lagos based? Okay, the Onowales are in Lagos. Yes, good. Peace and Co are in Lagos. Who else is in Lagos? Yeah, give us an indication of who else is in Lagos. I have seen some names. All right. Miriam, make us check that in. We need to wrap up.
Okay, I'll call him again.
All right, thanks. So let me do something. Let me show you the screen of the channel that I was talking about. So if you get to the link, it will take you to this environment, but it won't show you like this. So video 1 is this prologue, but when it comes to content itself, you start from Python lesson, what is programming? Python lesson 2, programming process. Lesson 3, languages. 4, installation. 5, pip commands. 6, our first code. Then variables are in 3 parts. Operators, video 10. Working with strings, 5 lectures. Working with numbers, 8 lectures. And by God's grace, maybe by Monday, all things being equal, I'll put working with dates, working with list, working with tuple, working with dictionary, and working with images in. And then the list keeps growing. So, and I try to keep them short. That's why they are not long videos. See, everything has to be around 15 minutes. So it's easier to watch. You can get through the message and then you move. So you can
Didn't pick up.
Okay, you didn't pick. All right, no problem.
So
So
I think he has network problem.
all right, that's not, yeah, thanks a lot for that. So what it means is that we'll call it a day today, and by God's grace, tomorrow evening, same time, we need to meet. But by then, we won't be writing games. I can discuss another game idea with you, and then you give it a try, more like a personal project for you to undertake. I'll think through the idea tonight. I'll discuss the idea with you tomorrow. And I'm sure you will be able to go through the idea, and then we will equally discuss our party idea tomorrow evening. Thanks a lot for being here tonight. It's always a pleasure, meeting you people. Good night, everyone.